Over 1,000 players in the Masters division competed in the Portland Regionals this past weekend. LimitlessTCG.com just uploaded all the day two deck lists. There were a little over 100 players that made it into day two. And so we're going to look at the most successful deck list from each archetype today. We'll start all the way at the bottom with Kyurem. So Katrina Luce placed day two with Kyurem Vmax, and this is the 20 water energy variant. So let's just take a look at the deck list as a whole here. Playing a 4/4 line of Kyurem Vmax. So Kyurem Vmax is going to be the main card of this deck using Glaciated World. Once a turn, you can discard the top card of your deck if it's a water energy attached to one of your Pokemon. And then Max Frost does 120 plus 50 for each card you discard. Out of discarding any amount of water energy from this Pokemon. So you can one-shot anything with this Pokemon. It's also very bulky, and with all of those water energies in the deck, you can pretty consistently hit off of Glaciated World. But this deck is also playing Switching Cup, switch a card from your hand with the top card of your deck, which is a way to guarantee hitting Glaciated World. And we also have Expedition Uniform. Look at the bottom three cards of your deck and put any of them on top of your deck in any order, which can help with Glaciated World. And Primordial Altar. Once a turn, you can look at the top card of your deck and discard it. You may discard it. So if the top card isn't a water energy, you might discard it to have a better shot at the next one being a water energy. Playing only 6 basic Pokemon in this deck, they also played 1 Luxray with Explosiveness. If this Pokemon's in your hand when you're setting up to play, you may put it face down as you're active, and then it has the Seeking Fang attack, does 50 damage for 1 energy, and you search your deck for 2 trainers and put them into your hand. A pretty cool deck, definitely different with over 20 basic water energies in it, and I believe Azul GG has some gameplay with this deck if you want to check it out. Next is Intellion Vmax. So one person day 2'd with an Intellion Vmax deck. Of course, this deck is kind of known as Intellion Urshifu, but there's more Intellion in it than Urshifu, so that's just how Limitless categorized it. So Intellion Vmax has the double gunner, which can put 2 damage counters on 2 of your opponent's Pokemon, and that's going to be really good to pair with Rapid Check Urshifu Vmax's Gmax Rapid Flow that does 120 to 2 different Pokemon, and also with Yoga Loop, which puts 2 damage counters on a Pokemon, and if you knocked it out, you get to take an extra turn. This is like the big payoff attack of this deck. And then you also have Radiant Alakazam that can move up to 2 damage counters around your opponent's board to help that damage be where you need it. This deck is really good against Lost Zone decks because they have all the comfies down. Even if they have Manaphy, you can double gunner it, and then Painful Spoons, double gunner again, Yoga Loop, knock out the Manaphy, get an extra turn. So you can take advantage of one of the most powerful decks in the format, which is Lost Zone variants as a whole. And then you also hit Miraidon decks for weakness with Gale Thrust and Rapid Flow, which is nice. You have Drapion V against MuvMax. So this is a deck that has consistently been making day 2. At EUIC, it even got top 16, so it has been placing higher. Unfortunately, at this one, couldn't go any further than top 128. Next is Darkrai Vstar. I got 36, so it got mad close to getting top 32 actually. So Darkrai Vstar has the Dark Pulse attack. It does 30 plus 30 for each dark energy attached to all of your Pokemon. And then it has the V-Star power Star Abyss. Star Abyss reads during your turn, you put up to 2 item cards from your discard pile into your hand. So let's see what item cards we have here. We have Cross Switchers, Dark Patch, Trekking Shoes, Ultra Ball, Nest Ball, Pal Pad, Lost Vacuum, Energy Retrieval, Hisuian Heavy Ball. Of course, Battle VIP Pass, but you'll never be using it to get those back. A lot of times it'll be for either Dark Patch or Cross Switchers. And you can flood the board with energy pretty quickly thanks to the Dark Patches, Galarian Moltres with Malevolent Charge, and Galarian Moltres V with Dire Flame Wings. So a very aggressive deck, just hits hard right in the active position, also has cross switchers to gust around things. I think this is one of those decks that functions and has a solid power level. It's just typically outclassed by the decks above it, but they showed that it can place pretty decently at a high population and high level tournament. Next is Dialga, which got 61st place, and this is actually Lost Zone Dialga. not the Magnezone version. So this is really, really cool. Dialga Vstar has Metal Blast. It does 40 for each metal energy attached to this Pokemon, but it also has Star Chronos. It does 220 damage, and then you get to take another turn after this one, which that can be very, very brutal depending on how exactly you can set that up. Like if you're taking a knockout with Star Chronos and then a knockout with Metal Blast. You also have enough water energies in here that you can make use out of Moonlight Shuriken. You also have the Zamazenta. It's kind of built like Hisui and Gujar V-Star Lost Zone, except it's just a different V-Star line in the deck. I'm actually a fan of this because it looks really, really fun. So I might be playing this on the channel soon. I definitely want to be taking this deck for a spin. Then we have a Palkia deck in top 64. This is really cool because the Palkia V-Star League Battle deck just recently came out, and that comes with Palkia V-Star, Radiant Greninja, Bibarel. It comes with a lot of these cards. Battle VIP Pass. I believe it has Irida and Melanie in it as well. So if you're new to the game, maybe you just bought the Palkia V-Star deck, you can see a deck not too far off from that pre-constructed product. Make it into day two, which is very, very sick. Typically that does not happen in card games, so that goes to show how much of a variety there is in the metagame right now, and how many decks can find some sort of success and function at a pretty good rate. Even if they're not the best of the best, they're pretty good. And also that TPCI is making incredible pre-constructed products. So Palkia V-Star, the main card of the deck, 280 HP. It does Subspace Swell, 60 damage plus 20 more for each benched Pokemon. That's both yours and your opponent's. And Star Portal allows you to attach up to 3 water energy cards from your discard pile to your water Pokemon in any way you like. So typically those energies will be going to Palkia V-Star or Radiant Greninja, but you also have Lumineon V, Starmie V, and Articuno as possible targets. I guess Pyukumuku is also a possible target, but it's really just here for pitch of Pyukumuku. If this Pokemon's in your hand, you may reveal it, then put it on the bottom of your deck and draw a card. Next, there were 4 Lost Zone Giratinas, with the top placing one being 21st place, Kobe Kowalski, in top 32. Let's take a look at this list. So a 2-3 line of Giratina V-Star using Thornton. This is something that was popular at a point. So, because you don't really want to start with Giratina V, because in some matchups, in some games, how they play out, you're going to want to focus on just playing with single prize Pokemon. So this way, you have less of a chance of starting with the Giratina V, and then you can always just use Thornton to get the Giratina V onto your board and immediately evolve into Giratina V-Star. So this is going to play a Lost Zone box strategy using Cramorant Spit Innocently, Radiant Greninja's Moonlight Shuriken, and Sableye Lost Mine as some of your main attacks. And then you also have this powerhouse of a card with Lost Impact that does 280 damage, and Star Requiem that can just instantly knock something out. So Giratina V-Star is a very, very strong card, and you can bring it out of nowhere with the help of Thornton, and this deck is also playing Lumineon V, so you can more consistently find the supporter card you want, depending on the situation. Next, we have Miraidon, and there's actually 2 kind of variants or archetypes here, so we'll look at 2 different lists for this one. We have Miraidon Regieleki Vmax, the highest placing one out of 4 in day 2 was 34th place. So let's take a look at this one. Using the Klefki. So Klefki with Mischievous Lock, as long as this Pokemon's active, basic Pokemon in play have no abilities. This is specifically good in this deck because you have Regieleki V that can do Switching Bolt, swing 30 damage, and then switch this Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon. So you can just switch it back out into the Klefki. And then your best attacker a lot of the time is going to be Raikou V because it only costs 2 energy to use, and when it's in the active spot, you get to draw a card. And then Miraidon EX, of course, has Photon Blaster, which can also do 220 damage, but the Tandem Unit ability allows you to get set up really, really fast. And then, of course, Regieleki VMAX boosts all of your basic Lightning Pokemon's attacks by 30 damage. This is also good for boosting the Regieleki V. Lightning Wall does 100, but with the extra boosts from Regieleki VMAX, you can be two-shotting things with this Lightning Wall, but it also takes 100 less damage next turn from attack, so this could be really good against Lost Zone in the early game when they just want to like poke with a Cramorant, and their Cramorant will do 10 damage. And then the higher placing variant of Miraidon was Miraidon Flaffy. So Miraidon Flaffy actually also playing Magnezone V-Star. So let's take a look at Magnezone V-Star. It has Magnetic Grip. It does 180, and you can search your deck for up to 2 item cards. That attack is fine, but the best part of Magnezone V-Star is Electro Star. This attack does 90 damage to 2 of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Amazing against Lost Zone decks. Also, what's amazing against Lost Zone decks is you have Magnetic Tension. You can bring up the Manaphy with Magnetic Tension and then do 40 damage to it and hit it for weakness. So it's like a boss and an attack all in one attack against Manaphy. It's so good. And then Splitting Beam does 90 and 30 to 2 of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Then you have Flaffy for Dynamotor to recharge your Pokemon with Lightning Energy, and Raichu V can be a big bomb at the end of the game. You can discard any amount of Lightning Energy from all of your Pokemon, and it does 60 for each you discarded. So you can just passively set up Lightning Energy around your board every turn with Dynamotor. Maybe Dynamotor to a Flaffy, Dynamotor to a Miraidon, Dynamotor to a Raichu, and then Electric Generators, and before you know it, you have a Raichu that's doing like 360 damage on the last turn of the game. Next, we have Hisuian Gudra, and all of these were Lost Zone variants. The highest placing one was 32nd place. So this Hisuian Gudra V-Star deck is playing Articuno with Wild Freeze, which can paralyze. It's also playing Panic Mask, prevent all damage done to the Pokemon this card is attached to by Pokemon with 40 HP or less remaining. This is specifically good against Gardevar decks because they'll power up with Psychic Recharge, go to 20 HP left on their Zacian or their Gardevar or whatever, and then if they do that, they can't hit into the Pokemon that has Panic Mask attached to it. Hisuian Gujar V-Star has Rolling Iron. It does 200 and then takes 80 less damage next turn. And the Moisture Star ability can fully heal the Gujar V-Star. So this Pokemon has no weakness. It can be very tanky with the Rolling Iron. And then once it is in knockout range, you can just fully heal it with Moisture Star and make your opponent start all over again. Next is Arceus Dex. Oh, I clicked the wrong one. No, I didn't click the wrong one. So these are all the ones from Portland, though. Okay, so there were actually 3 different variants of Arceus decks. Let's look at this one. I think this is what is called Refined Arceus with the Kirlia engine. Yes, it is. So I'm very excited to see this. This is what they call in Japan Refined Arceus. Oh, they even have Gardevar EX. Okay, this is really, really spicy. So, Arceus Vstar, very consistent and reliable Pokemon. It does 200 for colorless energies, and it attaches 3 basic energies to your other Pokemon V, or to any of your Pokemon V in any way you like. But Starbirth is the real amazing part of this card. You could just search your deck for any 2 cards, which is so good. And then they're using the Refinement Kirlia discard a card, draw 2 as the draw engine. And they have Buddy Catch to search your deck for any supporter cards you want. You have Gallade, Dynablade, 60x to your opponent for every V Pokemon they have. So this is going to be good against Arceus Mirror matches. Radiant Gardevar to prevent 20 damage you take from Pokemon V, and then Gardevar EX. So this is interesting. It can only attach energy to psychic Pokemon. So you can attach energy to Gallade essentially. So like you can go use Buddy Catch to get Charon's Care, and you pick up your damaged Arceus, and then you attach double colorless energy or double turbo energy to Gallade, and then you Psychic Embrace 1 energy to Gallade, and then you attack for 160 and then put the energy back onto Arceus. That turn just seems so fun and so cool. So I think you could do a lot of cool stuff with this. Really happy to see this getting a day 2. Next is the highest placing Arceus Daraldon deck, which was 8th place, and this is Arceus Daraldon with Umbreon Vmax. Guys, this format is just so good. Like, the Pokemon trading card game is amazing right now. Tell all your friends, the best TCG around. So much variety. You can play realistically any of the strong cards that you like. You find a lot of different strategies. The format and metagame is wide open. You can succeed with a lot of your different favorite cards right now, and with a lot of cool innovations. So what they did here with this Umbreon VMAX deck was they took the core of Arceus Daraldon, like Alex Shemansky played with the with the Alolan Vulpix line. But they're using Umbreon VMAX for two reasons. One, it's a good attacker into MuvMax, so you don't have to play Drapions. And two, it has Dark Signal. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you can gust up one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So it's like a free Boss's Orders or a free Serena, however you want to look at it. They also have this really cool combination of Hawlucha with Flying Press to put a damage counter on two of your opponent's Pokemon, plus Radiant Alakazam to move up to 2 damage counters from one Pokemon to another. So you can Hawlucha Pokemon on the bench and then move 1 damage counter up to the defending Pokemon. This helps because that means you can Trinity Nova with a double turbo on that does 180 plus Choice Belt for 210 plus Hawlucha plus Alakazam to do 220 essentially. So it's like the old Galarian Zigzagoon combo but with more steps. Very, very, very cool. They also played Karen's Conviction, so their single strike Pokemon can do more damage. They also played Volo, so they can discard a benched Pokemon V that's damaged. Instead of playing Charon's Care, they just played Volo because it can remove any of the Pokemon V from the bench, especially Lumineon V, if you just want to play that to get a supporter, and then later on Volo it off of the bench. So this was a very, very cool deck that made top 8. Landon won the whole event with Arceus Giratina. Arceus Giratina is just so good at doing the fundamentals of the game. It plays so well because you have Arceus, which is one of the most reliable cards. You have Bibarel plus Squovit, which is a consistent and reliable draw engine. And you have Giratina Vstar, which does 280 damage, no questions asked. That's a lot of damage. Choice Belt bringing it up to 310 against something like a MuvMax, and also Cleansing Gloves can bring it up to 310 against the MuvMax, but also Cleansing Gloves can bring it up to 310 against Gardevar EX. Next we have MuvMax decks. At Portland, there were 2 versions. So the highest placing Fusion Strike version was 62nd place. And this played 2 of the Deoxys with Photon Boost. It does 80 plus 80 if this Pokemon has any Fusion Strike. So it does 160. This is going to be good at trading into anything that's Psychic Weak, trading into anything like a Cramorant that doesn't actually one-shot the Deoxys. That's very annoying for them. And then they play 1 Meloetta with Melodious Echo. It does 70 damage for each Fusion Strike energy attached to all of your Pokemon, so that can do 280 before Power Tablets and before Choice Belt. And then, of course, a 3-2 line of MuvMax. That's your big attacker, double turbo energy to copy attacks, Technoblast, do big damage, have high HP, double Forest Seal Stone for consistency, Path to the Peak plus Judge for a little bit of disruption. Not as much disruption as the other version of MuvMax, though, that we'll look at. The DTE version with placing in the top 8 at 6th place. This one you'll see has 4 Path to the Peak. It has 4 Lost Vacuum, 3 Judge, and a Roxanne. So this version of the deck is much more about just consistently hitting for good damage and Judge pathing or Roxanne pathing your opponent. Also fan of Waves for getting rid of V-Guard energy. Then we have Gardevar. So the highest placing Gardevar Mewtwo V Union was Grant Shen at 25th place, and we actually saw Grant Shen on stream. I believe it was the first streamed match of day 1. His deck looked very, very dominant against Lost Zone builds because he was playing 3 Klefki and Mewtwo V Union. So Mewtwo V Union, the best attacks on it are Psysplosion, which can put 16 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like. And then also Final Burn, which does 300 damage. Gardevoir EX can power that up very quickly, but this is a little bit more of a wait and set up kind of deck. Because, you know, with that Klefki, if you're against a Lost Zone deck, you can take your time and set up if you have double Klefki, because Escape Ropes does not help them. So I do wonder if we'll see a point where there's so much Klefki that people start playing Canceling Cologne again in Lost Zone. I'm not sure if Klefki will ever get to that level of popularity, though. And then the highest placing straight Gardevoir was 15th place. You will see, though, a lot of Gardevoir in day 2. But I think the meta was pretty prepared for Gardevoir. So this one is more like toward Reklev's build, Zacian V. The other one had Zacian V, but only one of them. This also has Cresselia. The big thing about Cresselia, it has 120 HP, so it survives a hit versus Cramorant, and then you can use Penny on it. But it also has Moonglow Reverse, which is good for sniping little Pokemon, either in the mirror match on Ralts and Curlia or against Lost Zone sniping Comfies. And then, of course, your main attackers, Zacian V and Gardevar, they both scale up with the same amount of damage per psychic energy attached, 60 base plus 30 more for each psychic. But Zacian V has more HP, so you can attach more energies to it with the Psychic Embrace, and you can also use it with Skysail Stone. Next is Lugia Archeops. So there were a lot of Lugia Archeops. Reagan placing second, making it all the way into the finals with Single Strike Lugia with the Single Strike Urshifu VMAX. I thought that it was very smart to play Single Strike Urshifu VMAX this weekend. I with Arceus Daraldon doing so well recently, there's going to be a lot of Arceus Daraldon copycats. So getting through the Duraludon would be important, and there would also be Lugia matchups where they're playing Duraludon. So either playing Duraludon or Single Striker Shifu VMAX seemed like a no-brainer for Lugia this week. Lugia is still very powerful. It's a little less consistent and has a little less options right now than it did in the last format. So it's not overbearingly powerful anymore, but it's still one of the best decks in the format. And then, of course, we have Lost Zone. Were there really no Sablezards in day 2? Hang on a second. Was there no Sablezard in day 2? That's crazy. Sablezard, maybe they're not listed as Sablezard. Let's look. Do I know of any of these people playing specifically Sablezard? I don't. Yep, here we go. Okay, so Sablezard just isn't listed as a different variant, so I don't know which one of these people played Sablezard specifically. Let's see, did Cal play it? No. Okay, we'll just look at Samuel Huff's version of Sablezard real quick for this list, placing 36th place. Using 1 Mirage Gate in here and 7 energy, a little higher energy count than typical, and also playing a Mirage Gate, which isn't always how this deck plays, but playing Raihan, Mirage Gate, so you can attack with Radiant Charizard, bit of unexpected times. Double Halucha for the flying entry ability, and yeah, this deck is really focusing on Sableye, only playing 1 Cramorant. But yeah, the triple vacuum, so you can get to the Lost Zone in 10 faster, 4 Pokegear. So really just trying to use Sableye's Lost Mine as much as possible. And then we have Grant Manley at 3rd place with Turbo Lost Zone. Their group chose to play Kyogre instead of Drapion. They're both technically there for the MuvMax matchup. Kyogre is just harder to use, but more rewarding against other matchups, whereas Drapion V is like 95% just there for MuvMax, and then you can also use it against Gardevar with Mirage Gates. You can also use it against Rapid Strike Box if you need to, but yeah, so they chose to use the Kyogre plus 3 energy recyclers. It's a little awkward to play Kyogre right now without Ordinary Rod in the format. It gets a lot easier next format when Super Rod gets reprinted in Paldea Evolved. But yeah, so focusing on Dragonite V as your big attacker, Dragon Gale for 250. You can also use Raikou V against Lugia because it hits for weakness. Echoing Horn, either to pair it with Boss or Rope, or, Echoing Horn a little guy and get it with Greninja or Sableye, but also Echoing Horn and then use Kyogre's Aqua Storm. So the big Wombo combo is you use 2 energy recyclers, Mirage Gate to Kyogre, attach, and then just mill your whole deck and do 250 to 2 Pokemon. And then Alex Shemansky actually played another different variant of Lost Zone Box. So this was completely single prize focused. I didn't mean to open up the image. Completely single prize focused, using Kyogre as well, but using Galarian Moltres as your dark type attacker, and also as your big damage dealer in late game. Snorlax as a good like medium-sized damage dealing Pokemon, but it's also pretty good against the mirror match because it can't be affected by Sableye, and Cramorant doesn't one-shot it. And then also doing just the normal Lost Zone stuff with Sableye, Cramorant, and Radiant Greninja. So those were all of the decks from Portland, and here is the full breakdown of their placements. But I wanted to look today at least one deck list from each archetype. So I'll leave a link here so you can look at all of these deck lists and standings if you'd like to. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.